surprises after so many years of being
Oh,
a painter?
are you-
Since you mixed your own, mix your colors.
Oh, yeah,
all the time.
constantly, yeah. The main thing is not to look for those surprises. And you get really,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you can anticipate and to throw yourself off, And that's why I did the red. I wanted to throw myself off where I couldn't go to what I probably knew would work. And I like doing that.
The challenge.
It gets you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, if I'm not, if it becomes too easy for me, I get real worried. I
I'm
don't,
bored.
and bored, you got it. Yeah. Anybody have any questions? Yeah.
How are you choosing your locations that you're starting with? Like, how you decided that this place was
Better
what
than
you
that
want?
place?
Yeah,
That is what Jana's been talking about. That's completely visceral.
yeah.
The three that are stacked up together, that's, if you're near Toledo or Newport on the old highway, it's called the Aquina Bay Road. I have almost driven off, because the road's really close to here, into that many times, staring at it, thinking, oh, God, that is so neat in my heart. So I thought, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try it at low tide, I'm going to try it at high tide, I'm going to try it at, to see what happens with the sand and the inlet that's right there. So it has to be something I really like. I was really taken with this particular scene, which is on Beaver Creek. And I think I've told others that it's been really important to other people who saw it from totally different. But that's where their ashes of their either loved ones or pets have been. So this is a place where the souls are lived. Because it's a very short trip to the ocean. And by the way, that got a lot of the tsunami surges afterwards. But I just love that, and I love in the sense of having to deal with ODOT. And I thought, what did he do? So I thought that would be kind of fun. And then this is just the winter when snow melts in the Coast Range. A lot of times when the land shows, it's like garbage and tires and stuff, and that just got me. There are things that just have to really grab me. If I don't feel engaged, I'm just pushing paint around.
Mhm.
That's the inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what kind of sketches, Sandy?
Yeah, I've learned, that's another thing about being this old, I draw with a felt tip pen. The heck with shading and all that stuff. I take and work on this. In other words, when I decide to paint, the composition is really all figured out. I know where and what angle that is. I know what shape it's going to be. And I have drawn, after the red dries, then I go out to the site. That's why these are smaller paintings. I don't do well taking big ones. And then I just draw. Just draw directly with a felt tip pen. And I really like that. For one thing, it gives you a line that's got real meat to it. And the other thing is that I get the directness, and it forces me to put down what I'm seeing, not messing around with it and trying to change it. It either works or it doesn't, So I get a lot of failures, but I figure that's okay. But I want to say one thing when I'm thinking about it. Bob DeZono in the back, who had a wonderful talk and book signing last Saturday, talked about line in your painting, and what you said really resonated with me, and it's how I approach it. It is like line is shape, shape is line. In other words, edges aren't, does that make any sense? Mm-hmm. When you, like if you go to a form, you don't go to this, you go to the center. I was always going to if I go a brush stroke, I say it in one, I'm trying to think shape line at the same time. So, I had a prof who always said,
Pack your shapes together.
he couldn't stand it if your shapes didn't, you know, fit or work across the picture plane. And so that you were going back and forth with space. So a lot of when I paint, I'm going directly to the center. And then I hope these shapes do something when they need. Which is what I like, which is doing in Jana's work too.
Well, that was what I learned from Cezanne, because I remember he said that lines are man-made,
Right.
you know, we made it up. That really line is boundary between two shapes.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's- and to play with that, so that you don't get the outline, that you don't get the flatness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jana, are your specific sites like hers are, or are you kind of,
No, it's more of a feeling, although there are influences of certain sites, like that one with the circle cut out and a piece over there. It's really the inspiration came from Powell Butte. My favorite area to go and unwind, because you're on top of the city, sort of outside, and you are just 162nd and Powell. And then they started to build the water covering it, or whatever the containers. And everywhere there suddenly were these red and chicken wire fences. It was so offensive to me, because suddenly that open space, I was cramped in. So, you know, that was an inspiration again, but it's not tied to a particular space, particular spot. Yeah, so all these, you know, doing landscape for some 40, 15 years, it's in me. So I can make it up.
Go ahead.
Could you talk a little bit more about the tension in your work between man versus nature? Because, I mean, I'm looking at your things and I'm just feeling this real fight. I mean, there's this definite fight between, you know, obviously the beauty of the birds and the landscape, and then this grid that you've just imposed over everything. I mean, you could even before I knew that you had said that you come from the former Czech Republic, you know, I'm thinking about, you know, concertina wire and you know, a fence that's so high you can't get over it, and then you have this beautiful stuff behind it. So can you just talk a little bit more about that? How does that make you feel when you're processing all of that? You have this war going on inside you about, you know, this sort of anger. Are you trying to portray anger at, you know, maybe that's, I don't know, but
More
just talk about
concern,
that.
more concern than anger. Concern that we are really sort of cutting our own limb underneath our feet. And there is advantage of being an artist, that you can express it instead of going and shouting and screaming. I scream inside. And I wonder whether I can say a joke.
Go ahead. Oh, you need one.
There are three kinds of people. There's those sickly ones who have no outlet to express anything. Then there are the crazies. And then there are artists who can express what they feel without going nuts.
And aren't we lucky?
I would just say, we wanted to talk a little about aging.
don't go there.
It's a tough one, because I'm in denial, I don't know about Jana.
As you can see, I am too.
And
Sometimes even I hurt myself.
Right.
Because I forget that I'm not 30 anymore.
and I keep wondering, I passed my retirement years many years ago, and I still continued to work. I think my mother said the wisest thing when she was in her late 80s. She said, Sandra, you never feel any differently inside. And I thought, I understand that now. You're just amazed when you look in the mirror and people start calling you dear and honey. What do you mean? So that and this is an aside because there's another part of me is in politics. I can't leave them alone. And to me, the art and politics go. I mean, that's what Jana's talking about. That's really what I'm talking about. But I, fool that I am, ran for city council for the city of Newport and won. And that was such a shock. But what's so great is, of course, I'm the only female. And the rest are all guys. And it's so much fun to be mistaken for a nice little old lady. And the freedom that age gives a person to say what one wants, to embrace this. And I am so fortunate with my health. I feel so lucky. And to have this energy and drive, I can't imagine me being me without it.
Without it, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that inner feisty spirit is what drives both of us.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember Bob once told me, I mentioned that I don't feel aging. He said, until you look in the mirror. Right. So let's not look in the mirror.
I do as little as possible. Well, and again, the creative process, which is why I've taught, they always say that teaching, you get more from the students than you give, and that's really true. I mean, it is like, for one thing, you like to talk people to go down, misery loves company. Oh, the creative process, you'll love it. It answers everything in your life because you like people there with you. But that age, and what's so great is that I've taught a lot in community colleges. And you have ages from 18 to 80. And what happens in the 4th week of the term is that the age disappears. The 80 are sharing with the 18. It is like what they're looking at is what they're seeing visually. And it doesn't have a thing to do with how old you are. It's where you are in seeing and in the process. And that is so cool. And to me, I think it's magical, which is why I we'll probably do that. And I'll be like Frida Kahlo, who would go to her openings on a gurney, that's like, right. They'll haul me in.
I wanted to touch also on that growth of women in growth of women altogether, but since we are artists, in the arts. I remember when I took the art history at CSU and Claire Calley, I really liked her. She was a wonderful historian. She was very eloquent. I like eloquent people because I'm not. And I loved the way she was teaching, comparing knowledge, compare this to that. It's much deeper because it really forces you to think instead of just repeating. And she was the first one after all my studies back in Czech Republic, because I was already teaching there. This was the first time when I learned about women artists in the Middle Ages. The art books never mentioned women. And then, of course, as women got more of education, our mothers were still the mothers. My mother was a very good singer. She was even offered a scholarship at the conservatory. She turned him down. I said, Mom, I don't understand that. Why? Well, I had family. I had all the children. So I have family. I have children. But that's different. We are a different generation, and I think the younger ones are even more driven. Women now have more self-esteem because we got more educated. They want more from life. Just being mother is not enough. It's rewarding, but it's not enough. And so I think there are more women now in politics and in the arts. There are groups like you mentioned, Gorilla Girls.
Oh, yeah, the Gorilla Girls, if any of you remember that.
There is now a museum, art museum of women, like Blackfish Gallery. There are a lot of women here, and strong women, and really good artists. So times are changing.
Yes. Yeah.